Drop it. Power panel on a lovely Friday evening. Is it?
It's Friday.
Is it?
You know?
It's Friday. Oh,
It's
thank
Friday.
God it's Friday.
Yeah, Cenk, John, and Brooke with you guys. Great to have you guys here.
Thank you.
Speaking of John, he's going to do a whole. Is it the whole hour? The whole hour. Whole hour of damage report tomorrow. Now on Monday with Alyssa Milano talking about specifically ballot measures.
Ballot measures, but the election too. It's going to be a lot of the ballot measures that she cares the most about, that she's been sort of organizing and doing her activism around.
So check that out on YouTube TV. We also have the podcast now on our app, tyt.com/app.
And the finished interview, as well as our different talks, are going to end up at youtube.com/the damage report.
Yes, so a lot of it will be public. A lot of it, of course, will be available to our members. And
tyt.com/John.
You're gonna need that help because
Great.
Starting to pull away. I'm not
No.
saying anything. I'm just saying, no.
Come on.
We will reveal it later in the program. Okay. So we're doing a fun little competition of the hosts. So far, just me, John, Anna, Haas, and Francis.
That's not true.
But we're adding people now.
We've already added one.
Is that right?
Well, the website's up. One of our biggest hosts, tyt.com/marijuana. I'm not even joking. That is really one of them.
If marijuana
That's
wins,
awesome.
luckily his or her name is hard to spell, but that it will be hilariously depressing. Okay.
We should have tyt.com/Randy Gonzalez up in about a week, I think.
No, that's not happening.
No, yes. So that's how you sign up for membership. You could also just do tyt.com/join. Of course, that's the common way. But if you want to do it through one of the host pages, that's a fun way of doing it. We're doing a little bit of a challenge. John was almost caught up to me yesterday. Wrong. Now I'm pulling away from him.
How much did you pull away by?
He was like, oh, it was cute. That's kind of the
Yeah,
tone.
that was,
Like,
yeah,
it was
exactly.
cute.
Come on,
Exactly.
people. I just want to ask a serious question to our audience. The way he is acting right now, do you really want to encourage that? Do you want him to be happy in this very particular way?
I think so. Okay, by the way, a little bit later in the program, there will be a great number of times that I agree with Republicans. It's gonna make your head spin, okay?
What?
So now, there's twists and turns there. It's a roller coaster ride. For some reasons you will understand, for some reasons you will not understand. So that's a little bit later in the program. Anyway, join up for membership any way you can. And have I finally caught Anna? You'll find out later in the program, okay?
What?
Okay, is it possible? And
Wait until she
now,
comes back.
one last thing here before we get to the stories, and there are, of course, a lot of great stories we're gonna get to in a second. But the election's coming up, you all know that. Obviously, we're doing a giant election night, election day on November 6th from 1 p.m. Eastern to probably at least 1 a.m. Eastern. That's at tyt.com/live, but also a giant election pre-election show on Monday night. So after our regular show, we will be doing 5 to 8 p.m. Pacific, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Again, tyt.com/live to make sure that you catch that. And I wanted to show you a new shirt we got at shoptyt.com because it's related to the elections. It says vote.
Ooh, I like that red one.
Remember the 6th of November.
I like that.
I like that, yeah.
I like the red one.
By the way, from another viewer. So you guys are amazing. I'll get you guys the name of the viewer because I want to give them credit. This is a wonderful, wonderful shirt.
And you might think, well, the election's only in a couple of days. Like, I don't have that long to wear it. No. Hopefully, with a good result next Tuesday, you're gonna wanna wear that to remember when our country finally regained a shred of its sanity.
That's right. It'll be a good day to remember, we hope. And also one coming up in 2 years. So lots of news to get to. Like I said, some parts where I'm going to agree with Trump and the Republicans. It's gonna be fascinating. My favorite story, and every story is fantastic, but is the one later in the first hour where a Guardian reporter followed around Trump on his rallies and found out that he's about peace and love. And I actually agree. Brace for impact.
Oh my God,
Okay.
this is the show where Cenk finally comes out in support of Trump.
Okay, by the way, there goes all the tyt.com/Cenk signups. Those are all out now.
Stand against this, okay? tyt.com/John, that's where you stand against Donald Trump.
By the way, also, here comes Hassan. Hassan's catching up. You'll see a little bit later.
Okay.
All right.
We'll wait until marijuana just eats everybody.
Okay.
Which is literally actually my fear when I'm too close to his cage.
Yeah. No, the other day Mary had the cage open, and I'm like, he could just jump out.
That's crazy.
And like somebody was in the studio. They're like, oh, is this could he really? I'm like, yeah, he could. So step away. Like it's no joke.
Jumped or like yelped way too often in there, and like then I look around. It's like when you fall but nobody saw, and then I make sure like okay nobody saw what just happened. Like he'll jump up to climb and it's just too fast. Too fast.
Yeah. Our iguana ain't nothing to mess with.
Exactly.
All right, John. Go.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. If you believe that Donald Trump has not been affected by the wave of political violence that came across our country over the past week and a half or so, you'd be wrong. He has been affected. He's just been affected in his own particular Trumpy offensive way, as you'll see.
And I will tell you, we have gotten tremendous numbers of Republicans are going out to vote. Now, we did have two maniacs stop a momentum that was incredible because for 7 days, nobody talked about the elections. It stopped a tremendous momentum. More importantly, we have to take care of our people, and we don't care about momentum when it comes to a disgrace like just happened to our country. But it did nevertheless stop a certain momentum, and now the momentum is picking up.
So one of the great things about Donald Trump not being on a teleprompter and also not thinking about the things he's going to say is that he will try to sometimes correct himself. So there he said, it's horrible that our momentum has been killed by these terror attacks. Not that we care about momentum, all that we care about is our people, but also our momentum has been killed, and that is a real shame.
Yeah, well, the real shame, of course, is that 11 human beings were killed.
Yes.
But he can't stop thinking about himself. Obsessed, doesn't care, brazen, not sophisticated enough to cover it up. I actually think John Favreau had the best comment here on Pod Save America, where he said, imagine any other president, Republican or Democrat, using a national tragedy like that and saying about how it reflects on their political standing and that's what they care about. Right? Imagine if Bush was like, hey, 9/11 happened. On the other hand, man, my ratings are really great. I have great momentum, right? Or after Hurricane Katrina, George Bush saying like, "Oh man, that really hurt our momentum." We over 1,000 people died, right? But anyway, it hurt me in the polls. I didn't like that. Everyone would be rightly outraged, and you could pick a Democratic. Like if Obama had said Benghazi hurt me in the polls, that's why I don't like it. Boom! Every head would explode, right?
Like,
and so we've just gotten
Charleston church shootings. Like, that really hurts us. We were trying to accomplish stuff, but now we're distracted. People are only talking about these horrific terror attacks.
Right.
He said that he focused on the fact that the media. It's unfortunate that the media was covering these terror attacks. They should have been talking about the election, okay? Instead, they were talking about the terror attacks, and that's really unfortunate.
Can I say that? I don't think this was unplanned. I think this whole, oh, he's dumb and just so narcissistic. It was just off the cuff. Look what he did no, I think this was planned. It's like political gaslighting. Like this, he said something and he meant what he said, and he meant to say that because that's what has been bothering him, and he wanted to get that out to like-minded people.
Yeah.
But of course, because evil CNN is there, he's got to clean it up a little bit. And it was just like the, I'm a nationalist thing. He cleaned it up a little bit. I know you shouldn't say that, but no, he knew what he was doing. He went in there. This was the message, the whole point of being there.
Yeah,
I don't believe it was an accident.
So I agree and disagree. So I disagree, and I think that people who watch the show regularly know I don't believe he has any strategy. I believe he is that maniacally stupid and narcissistic, and he can't help himself. He just can't. He blurts it out, God damn it, we had momentum, and now we lost it because somebody got killed. Who cares, right? And they sent pipe bombs. I mean, they sent bombs to, 13 people? And he mentioned 5 of them at a recent rally as people that you should hate. After the bombs.
He didn't acknowledge that they'd been targeted by terrorists. He refused to ever say who had actually been targeted. He just went back to attacking 5 of them again.
Right.
Yeah, but the part that I agree with you, Brooke, is when he talks about how the momentum was stopped, he's basically saying like, I was on a roll demagoguing, right? And I was getting up my base. I was using the fear, the caravans, the immigrants. And this kind of stopped my momentum of like the stuff that you guys like, the talk about fear and hatred. Because then it was like annoying, like this is the part he didn't mention, but I think that he's partly alluding to on purpose. Like, then it's harder to say the immigrants are the problem when I said that and the guy went and killed 11 Jewish Americans because he thought they were helping the immigrants.
Yeah.
And so that was annoying to me. Like, so it turns out my fear mongering worked and he murdered those people. And it made my fear mongering a little less convenient. I mean, yeah, I did it anyway, but it made it a little less convenient and it stopped my momentum. Yeah. So I'm annoyed that he killed those people and it hurt my political chances a little bit. By the way, for the exact reason why I do it. I do it so you are scared and hateful and take action, and he did. God damn it, you do it after the election, right? Yeah. And by the way, sorry, one more thing, John. About after the election, the terrorists in Kansas, the right-wing extremists in Kansas were going to blow up a building with Somali refugees in it in the middle of Kansas. They said in 2016 they purposely waited till after the election to try to execute that plan because they didn't want to help Hillary Clinton. They wanted to make sure Donald Trump won. So like in the past, the right-wing terrorists have basically done what Donald Trump wants, which is like, hey, let's wait for the terror attacks after the election because we don't want to stop his momentum. But this knucklehead in Pittsburgh didn't get that memo, and so that's why Donald Trump is aggrieved.
Yeah. Now, so I think that one of the things that our fans, the people who watch the show, tend to care about is reality and whether things are true. But not everybody does actually believe that. And some people might see Donald Trump refusing to acknowledge the obvious connection between his rhetoric and some of these attacks. Whether you think he wanted it to happen or whether you can connect one specific statement to a specific attack. We know that these are people that largely agree with him. One was a huge fan of his. And so how can he not acknowledge that at these rallies? Well, it turns out that, like we predicted, his fans are not going to accept that there's any problem with political violence coming from the right. And thankfully, we have Rebel HQ's Emma Vigeland, who has been going to a number of these rallies, talking with Trump fans there, and she has uncovered some amazing, I guess, mental gymnastics to avoid coming to grips with what's actually going on. Here is the first video.
There's been a string of right-wing terrorist attacks and kind of an influx in them, an influx in right-wing
terrorist attacks, like when?
Like the bomber, like the white supremacist shooting.
The insane person.
Right, but so 37 right-wing terrorist attacks in 2017, only 7 Islamic terrorist attacks, 11 right-wing. That's from the Global Terrorism Database.
Okay. Nice try.
What do I think about it? False media. Fake news. That's what I think about it personally.
No, listen to the man. They just blow it up. They take everything out of context, or when they can.
He used to be a Democrat too. Nobody talks about that. He was just a crazy person. You can't blame a president for a crazy person.
I'm just wondering if you think Trump's encouraging that kind of rhetoric with the way.
No, he's trying to keep him out. He's trying to keep him out of here, and he's trying to get rid of him. And I don't want to see it happen. But if we have to, we'll kill him.
Okay, so we're not violent.
The
we have to kill them.
comprehension skills, it's frustrating. It's
Yeah, no, they just live on a different planet. That to me is the most frustrating and depressing part. I mean, the more we send Emma to those rallies, the more we see those. A huge percentage of those folks do not live on Earth. They live in a alternate reality where the guy who said that I hate the immigrants so much and the Jews are paying for the immigrants, just like Donald Trump said, Soros, they asked him the other day, you think it's Soros funding the caravan? And he said, yeah, probably, right? So the shooter said the same thing, not in Soros, but another Jewish group he thought was funding the caravan, so he went and killed Jews. How is that not right wing? He is an avowed right winger. That guy happened to think that Donald Trump didn't hate Jews enough, right? He was to the right of Donald Trump, but he's nowhere near the left, nowhere near the middle, clearly. Now you could say, look, a fair point would be, oh, come on now, that's not fair because he doesn't represent all of us. None of us do bombings and we're all good people and I love my kids and we go play softball and look, I think that they enjoy the same kind of rhetoric, so I wouldn't agree with that point, but it would be a fair point. But to just deny reality and say, no, he wasn't right wing, the guy who sent the bombs, he sent it to 13 top Democrats and liberals in the country. And he's an avowed Trump fan who has the CNN sucks and Donald Trump is great van and the stickers and showed up at the rallies, called himself an avid Trump fan. How is he not right wing? But they don't live on Earth. They live in a totally different reality where they're right about everything, and then everyone else that doesn't look like them is a mortal threat to them.
Someone that I follow on Twitter said something, and I can't remember exactly who said it, but she said something I hadn't thought about before, just like how well these people must sleep at night. Like how awesome it must be to just not care about anybody who doesn't look exactly like you. I mean, exactly like you, and to not have to think about and like internalize horrible things going on in this country, to not, actually get sad when you think about little kids being stripped away from their families or people leaving like war-torn cities and walking to other countries to just say, please, can I have your scraps?
Yeah.
Can I just have your free air? To hear that, to not have to worry about being in your place of worship, your place of faith, and being murdered and never going home again, to have to feel about taking your kids to a synagogue and if you're being a bad parent because you choose to do that. Like, they must sleep really well because it's rough out there right now, when you care.
Yeah, they go there to be surrounded by people who are exactly like them.
This is also
look
how they
exactly
live
like
their
them,
lives,
think
though.
exactly like them. And the thing is, you might say, well, look, Emma talks to a lot of people. Why do you guys focus on the craziest people? And we're gonna have some other crazies. And the thing is, previously, we have put up videos of Trump fans at his rallies saying reasonable things. When she comes across them, people who seem to question things, or they seem to get their information from multiple places, they sound reasonable, we go out of our way to magnify that part of his fan base. But we can't help it if we ask, do you accept the obvious facts that right-wing terrorists far outnumber either liberal or Islamic? We'll just include all of those terrorists. They just don't accept it, and it doesn't matter how obvious it is. If Donald Trump went up there one night and said, I want you to shoot Maxine Waters in the head, and someone did it the next day, they'd say he's just a crazy. It doesn't matter how many MAGA hats he wears. It doesn't matter how strong the connection is. He can repeat the exact same conspiracy theories. The MAGA bomber can target his exact list of enemies. They will never accept that.
Yep.
Now we do have more video if you'd like.
Yes, so one just quick thing here. I think that they sleep well and they don't. So they sleep well because they don't, it's not that they don't have empathy. I think Trump doesn't have empathy, but I think his followers do, but only for, as we've talked a lot of in the past, their own community. People who they view to be one of them. And if, by the way, there's a black person in their community, they might actually view that black person as one of them. But they have to be in the community, right? They have to be in the church, they have to be in the neighborhood, etc. And that's it. And anyone outside the gates, they have no empathy for at all, so they do sleep well in that sense. But they don't sleep well because they're in constant terror. Like the immigrants are coming, the Jews are coming, the Muslims are coming, the blacks are coming, the Latinos are coming, the gays are coming. Oh my God, they're in the bathroom. The trans are in the bathroom, right?
Can I just say, because people aren't gonna get like upset, but listen, a black person is never truly in that community. That what we just saw, that, oh no.
Unless,
you may think you are, but look at Kanye. It can be snatched right up under. There are people who, the rug can never, it's like attached to their feet. You are not one of them. And something is going to happen sooner than later because it happens to them all. This is not your community. I mean, like,
no, you're totally right.
It's not.
Because I was going to say, well, if you're Ben
not that what we just saw.
Yeah, I was going to say, but if you're Ben Carson, a total, sellout, Candace Owens, whatever, right?
He better keep it on the up and up.
Yeah, but by the way, Candace, go ahead and cry about that right now. But the reality is, you're right, because if she missteps a little bit and says, oh my God, like a cousin of mine got shot and he was unarmed. That was weird. Why did they do that? They're like, oh, she's out. Okay, she's one of those no good blacks.
Do you ever read her replies just for fun from people who support her? They talk to her like she is a dog, and I don't think she even knows it. Like it is just like, hey, you are less than me, but thank you so much for talking to your people. Maybe one day, you guys can get out there and be, good parts of the country and do for yourselves. I'm so happy that you're like, what? This is not your friend. This is not your friend talks to you.
That's right.
It's like,
why don't we actually take our first break? We come back, we're gonna have the Guardian reporter who's been following a bunch of these rallies with some truly insane quotes.
All right, we'll be right back. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. Let's read some member comments. Cheryl makes a great point. She said about how I said, after tragedies, if the other presidents had politicized it, and she pointed out Trump did do that after 9/11 too. There's audio of him telling a radio show host that his building is now the tallest in New York City or the world. I can't remember which. It was New York City. You're right. I forgot about that. Yeah. He went on air. Now, of course, he wasn't a political figure at the time, but he's like, they're like, okay, what do you think about the 3,000 people dead and the worst tragedy ever, et cetera? And he's like, well, now my building is the tallest. It used to be the second tallest. Now it's the tallest in New York. Oh my God, no empathy, none. The guy's a sociopath. Okay, Robert F. Strickland writes in, MAGA equals cult. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. That's 100% right. And Kinkaju writes in, what I've learned from Emma's interviews is that MAGAs think anything that doesn't have their exact views is fake news.
Yeah.
Also 100% right.
I don't like it, it's fake. It is so frustrating.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, it's there. I actually saw somebody do it, but it's fake because I don't like it.
Yeah. If you missed it, please watch, if you're a member, go back and watch Wednesday's show, tyt.com/jank to become a member. Watch Wednesday's show about the Ted Cruz story, what Donald Trump did to Ted Cruz to the National Enquirer. He did the definition of fake news. It was purposely fake stories that they invented about Ted Cruz to smear him. And they did it over and over again to Hillary Clinton and to Marco Rubio and to all the people that were against Donald Trump. And now to turn that around and pretend like that the real news is fake just because it's inconvenient. No, they do. They live on a totally different planet. And it drives me crazy when the mainstream media treats them as rational actors. Like, oh, we don't want to offend. We don't want to offend. I mean, either this or either that.
Gotta tell both sides.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that we're focusing on this story for the first half of the show isn't just because of the implications for political violence and encouraging more violence and things like that. But whatever you think is the reason that these people follow Donald Trump initially, whether you think it's the racist stuff, the economic anxiety, or whatever, a key, I would say, core component of his cult is the acceptance of whatever they want to believe as being true, a complete rejection of the real world. That even like George W. Bush's fans still wanted, I think, to live in the real world, a fact-based world, but not Donald Trump's fans. A significant portion of this country has been convinced that if you want to believe that something is true, just believe it. It's better than accepting inconvenient truths. And it doesn't matter what conspiracy theory, how crazy it's being spread, people are finding it easier and easier to just hide in these protected idea bubbles, basically. And that is not just a thing of political violence, and it's not just a thing that will be gone when Trump is gone. Like, we're gonna be pushing, hopefully under a progressive president, for these massive programs that will benefit the country and its people. But we're gonna be doing that to 30% of the country that will accept whatever Fox News says about it. And so we need to gird ourselves for a battle that is not going to end on Tuesday or in 2020.
Yeah, I have a battle plan for that, but that's up for another story. Okay. One other last thing here, the shirts, the Remember, the 6th of November, designed by Laura Zuckerman, who is a member of the Young Turks.
Thank you, Laura.
Laura, these are excellent designs, bless your heart.
It's amazing, I love it.
Absolutely, shop tyt.com to get those right now. And you could also get the Vote shirt that John is wearing, the Blue Nami.
Blue Nami. I like that.
Yes. All right, John, what's next?
Okay. So we've been sending Rebel HQ's Emma Vigeland around to a number of Trump rallies around the country. Other outlets do have embedded reporters as well. And The Guardian had one of their reporters going to a number of these rallies for week after week and really getting to know individual people that go to these rallies, but also what Trump's message is that he returns to from time to time. So we're gonna talk about that, but I also wanna talk about one individual that the Guardian reporter had an extended conversation with that might be willing to go farther in his adulation of Donald Trump than anyone I've seen before. So this is Steve Spaeth, who's 40 years old and runs a home exteriors company in West Bend. The Guardian reporter asked him who he regards as his political enemies and whether hate is too strong a word. Steve said, not at all. I have a deep and absolute disgust for these human beings. Guardian reporter asks which ones. He rattled off CNN, Soros, Clinton, Waters, Booker, Pocahontas, aka Elizabeth Warren, and others. Guardian reporter, why do you hate them? They want to turn America into a socialistic country. It's disgusting. First of all, I think that a number of those people, regardless of what you think about them, are not fans of socialism or even moving in that direction. But he has been trained to hate those people, the same people, by the way, that received bombs just a week ago.
How ironic.
But it goes farther than that. The Guardian reporter says you must be joking. And he says, oh, did we actually lose part of it? Damn, we lose part of the quote.
All right, I'll get that quote for you in a second because I have a quote. Yeah.
Okay.
So
the best quote of the story, by the way.
Okay, here it is. Okay. So the Guardian reporter then asked Spaeth about his sister, who is a liberal and votes for Democrats. He said to her, "If there's a civil war in this country and you were on the wrong side, I would have no problem shooting you in the face." Okay, so then the reporter says, "You must be joking, right?" And he says, "No, I am not. I love my sister. We get on great. But she has to know how passionate I am about our president." So I'm gonna tell you a disturbing story of a guy I knew in college. He was a normal kid when he came in as a freshman. I was a junior, we were in the same hall, and he started pledging a frat. And he became more and more obsessed with the frat, and the frat does the same thing that cults do. And right, it doesn't mean if you're in a frat, you're a bad guy. There's plenty of people who work here who are in frats, etc. But it is a similar ideology in a sense, but they don't get you to kill people most of the time. Anyway, but they do engender this, like they strip you of your identity. By the way, the military, all the militaries do this as well. They strip you of your individualism and they say the reason you matter and what is most important is your new identity as a frat brother. The frat matters the most. So one day he came up to me and he said, "You know, if my frat asked me to, I'd kill my mom." And I was like, wow. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, what is wrong with you? And so the reason I tell you that story is, it is not particular to just the Trump cult. This is a common phenomenon. You strip people of their identity, you tell them they have a new identity, and they must follow the leader, and whatever the leader says, you must do. And it is more important than your family, friends, or anything else. And so, but what Trump has created with these MAGA guys is definitely a cult. They don't believe in reality. No matter how much Donald Trump says insane things that aren't remotely true, they say it is, and anyone who says the truth is fake news. And then now he's like, he loves his sister, and he would shoot her in the face if Trump told him to. It's actually worse than the original Trump comment. You remember Trump said, if I shot someone on Fifth Avenue, that he could get away with it with his followers? No, he could get them to shoot their own family members on Fifth Avenue and still get away with it.
He told his sister he would kill her. Like, this is not, and you're like, that is a see something, say something situation. He would have to go. Okay, like you have to leave the dorm, sir. Maybe the frat house has a room they can open up early for you.
Yeah. And that's why when you hear stories sometimes of people doing outrageous things in frats, it's because of this phenomenon, and also religious cults, etc., and the MAGA cult. And so let's keep it real. The guy who sent all the bombs was in the MAGA cult, and he believed that, hey, I gotta act. The dear leader wants me to act, and the enemy is Soros, and the guys he tells me about in every rally. Trump said it in all the rallies before the bombs were sent, and he said it in all the rallies after the bombs were sent. In other words, congratulations, Caesar, nice job. These are the people I wanted you to attack. And they're not even your sister. How easy is that? Attack Soros. You all want to attack Soros. Emma Vigeland, our reporter for Rebel HQ, just did an interview with a guy who's got Soros tattooed on his back. And he's like the puppet master over Obama, Clinton, and Ayatollah Khomeini. And because
that's a weird connection.
Because they're mental. They're mental. And by the way, mainstream media, they're mental. Stop saying that they're rational or that it's 50-50 or that Republican voters are great and Hillary Clinton shouldn't have called them deplorable. Not all of them, but a significant percentage have lost their frickin' minds.
Well, and in terms of violence, I'm sure that just as with your friend in the frat, we're talking about a very small percentage. But there are thousands of people in the crowd, so you don't need 10% or exactly. We don't need 1%. You don't need 0.1% to occasionally have a terror attack. Far less than that, which he has, can become a gigantic problem. I mean, that guy, the Guardian reporter didn't say, if you had to shoot your sister, would you? And he thought about it and said yes. he offered it up as an example of his love, something that he had apparently already been thinking about.
He told it to her. That's the quote was that
exactly.
I told her. And what we just saw, the 2 terror attacks that we just saw, the 3 really that we just saw, like if this poor sister was a journalist, God forbid, like, and she's on top of that being called the enemy of the people.
Yeah.
Like, would we go back to that and be like, I mean, at what point do you realize, no, this is level 10, this is bad. It's not just, oh, he said something wild. Like, no, there's a fear that like he may actually do it. That I feel like his sister's in danger.
And it certainly doesn't. I mean, look, the people there are told lies constantly, and they don't know it. They can't tell, but it doesn't hurt that they go into these things with very little information. This was crazy to me. In the profile by the Guardian reporter, I thought that we had just moved past the QAnon thing. I thought that was this crazy thing that died off. Right. Maybe for the most part it has, but in the crowd at that rally was a woman named Shadow Lane who had a Q drawn on her cheek for QAnon, the far-right conspiracy theory network, and she believes some kind of crazy counterfactual things about the world. The reporter asked her what America would be like in 2050 if Hillary Clinton had beaten Trump, and she said it would be like Guatemala, a socialistic country. He, I think being generous, says she's probably confusing it with Venezuela since Guatemala is currently run by a right-wing president who, like that woman, is an avowed Trump fan, but it doesn't matter. It's all mixed up in their minds. They can't tell that's like if it's a right-winger, if it's a left-winger. Well, if it's right-winger, it's probably fake news. Probably secretly it's a left-winger, probably secretly a Muslim too in Guatemala. But it's this mix of conspiracy theories and ignorance and hatreds and anxiety that give birth to a movement that will accept literally anything at this point.
They're not even complete sentences. The only complete sentence we've gotten out of this whole thing so far is that I would shoot my sister in the face. The rest of it's like, ask her to explain that cue. You know what I mean? Because I have solid like comprehension skills, and I don't get it.
There was one other comment, by the way. There was a comment from a 66-year-old retired teacher who said that the Democrats want the country to be poor, basically, because then they'll have power. And specifically, they want to keep black people in poverty. And he said, as proof of that, the Democrat Bush said, if you keep the blacks on welfare, they'll always vote for you. And the reporter said, Bush was a Republican, and he said, oh, I don't remember. That was not long ago. He was president for 8 years. He was a Republican.
So I'm gonna turn around now.
The guy's 66 and a teacher.
Also,
a teacher.
We know who benefits from welfare the most, but it's like that's a long okay.
Yes,
We've been trying to get that
cross. It's white people.
For a really long
white
time,
people benefit from welfare way more than black people. I'd ask you to look into facts, but you don't believe in facts.
Right,
If you're a Trump supporter, so it's irrelevant. Okay, so I'm going to turn around and tell you the things he's doing right in these rallies. Okay, and which is interesting. But one last thing about the lies. The lies are so prevalent, it's amazing. So he said they've opened up at least 8 new steel plants in the country. That's not true. There's been no new steel plants open. There have been 2 that have been expanded. So it's not really remotely true. And of course, he keeps saying that the immigrant caravan is being, which is in reality a refugee caravan, is being funded by the Democrats. It's a total lie, 100% lie. Ted Cruz today, 100% lie, says Beto O'Rourke is funding the caravan.
Why not?
Why not? Because we're making up stuff and our idiot followers will believe anything. I mean, how preposterous that Beto O'Rourke is funding the caravan. They're like, oh yeah, they'll believe it. They'll believe it. You can say that Beto O'Rourke killed the Easter Bunny, and they'll believe it. They'll believe there is an Easter Bunny and that Beto O'Rourke killed him. So anyway, so what's the right thing he's doing here? Look, at these rallies, they say the 3 things, and the reporter I think did a fantastic job. He points out things that are true, right? He doesn't let him get away with things that aren't true, but points out, wait, you're missing something. And what you're missing is love. These are at the rallies. Love, peace, and humor. And you're thinking, really, about Donald Trump? But it's actually, in a lot of ways, it is true. And let me explain. So he keeps saying, I love you guys. And they keep shouting back, I love you. And I get it. And that is an effective tool. And they do love him. And it's what Brooke referred to in an earlier story on today's show. It's a cocoon. And within the cocoon, they're so safe. And they feel so good, and that's the peace part. They are so at peace. And the reporter, that's why I keep giving him credit, and Emma, who covers the rallies for us, has similar points. Within their cocoon, they're so happy and peaceful. There's no immigrant caravans going into a Trump rally. There are none of the minorities that they're worried about are a very small amount, and they believe the same thing, so they're okay, they're the good ones, etc., right? And Trump tells them all the things they want to hear.
Yeah.
Everyone outside the cocoon's a bad guy, but don't worry, I'm gonna protect you because I love you. And so they think like, oh my God, finally someone who gets it. And I'm gonna be safe with Daddy Donald. I'm gonna be safe. And that's why I love our leader, because he keeps us safe from all the boogeymen out there. And remember, the conservative brain is slightly different than the progressive brain. This is an actual scientific fact. Now, look, you don't want to overinterpret it, but there are portions of their brain that are related to fear that are slightly larger than in other people's brains. So it is not an accident that conservatives all across the world and across history have been more reticent about change because they're afraid. They're afraid of change. They're afraid of the others. And so that is what Donald Trump takes advantage of. But for those people, it is such a soothing message. And then like you and I look at him and you think that he's not funny, but to them, he's a crack up.
You're right.
Because he's not telling jokes, but he goes like, Pocahontas. And we go, what a terrible thing to say about someone.
Racist,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, so whether you think she's a Native American or you don't, or again, they don't care about facts. Like, let's say that, either way, it's racist to call someone Pocahontas. I mean, it's crazy, right? We look at it that way, like, wouldn't that be offensive to Native Americans? Because we care about Native Americans, we don't want to offend them, right? But they look at it as like, yeah, that's so funny. I hate Native Americans too. Yes, that's so funny, right? And I'm so safe.
There's so much comfort in like expanding. Like it used to be, like we always say, like racism and all of this nasty. These people didn't just start feeling like this. Like you said something about like Bush supporters that they wanted to live in in like a normal world, like a normal aspect of like reality. Sure, but not far too many of them wanted to live here. But I think this has created this world where you can come outside. You can come outside your door. You don't have to just be nasty with your wife and your kids. Like you can say it outside, out loud. You can go on TV and say it. You can say it on a microphone. Your president says it. It's amazing.
And I think
it's like,
oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, I think I 100% agree. I think tied in with it is you get to vacillate between these periods of what you're saying is this warmth and comfort. Everyone around me is like me. I don't have to worry right now. But also, and this is just a human thing, it explains why mob violence exists. There's a certain percentage of people, and I think that they have self-selected into the Trump cult, that just want to release this darkness inside of them. And they want a person to give them that right. So they bow down to the authoritarian leader, Donald Trump, but the authoritarian leader then in turn allows them to lash out. So when he says those media people and everybody lets loose with their rage targeted against the media that's assembled there, when he says exclusively generally about black politicians and especially black female politicians that they're low IQ or they're criminals or whatever, lock them up because these people desperately want to see people like that locked up and they want a powerful figure to tell them all of those feelings you have are perfectly acceptable. You're surrounded by everyone who will agree with you. Now just let it out right now. Do this 2-minute hate and you will feel so much better afterward.
It's almost therapy. And finally, the reporter said the most common sentence spoken there, and it's actually on the t-shirts as well. And by the way, his name is Ed Pilkington. I want to give him credit for a wonderful story. The sentence was, Trump, he says what I think. And that's it. That's it right there. So when the CNNs of the world actually cover for Trump supporters, I know they never believe that, but they do. They cover up for them and they pretend that Trump is the only guy who thinks these things and Trump is a wacko who by himself, but he doesn't represent the Republican Party or their voters. It's not remotely true. They had 17 people to choose from. They chose Donald Trump. They did it on purpose because he says what they think. And what they think is, man, remember when America was great, when we dominated and we didn't have to worry about anybody else? We didn't have to worry about equal rights. We didn't have to worry about any of that. I mean, in the 1950s and 60s, America wasn't great for a lot of people and they hate to hear that. They're like, but it was great for us.
Fake news.
We ruled,
Yeah.
we ruled. So now when he attacks all those other people, you think that that's the problem. They think it's the solution. He says what I think. That's what the t-shirts say. And so that's the Trump cult. And that's why they love him, because he's finally someone just as racist as they are.
Yeah. Why don't we take a break? When we come back, some action on Iran coming from the Trump administration.
Yeah, and there's a twist in that one too, where I'm gonna agree with him on a couple of things. fascinating twists. We'll
You
talk
woke
about
us up like that.
We'll talk about it when we come back.